Florida talks up a peace deal but delivers no detail. The US president said it was a terrific meeting and that he also had a positive phone call with Russia's President Putin, but couldn't give a deadline for reaching a deal.
So if it went really well, maybe a few weeks, and if it went poorly longer, and if it went really poorly, it's not going to happen. That would be a shame.
Here is the drama of the life and loves of a young girl of today.
Also tonight, remembering French film star Brigitte Bardot, who's died aged 91. And in tennis, a reboot of that famous Battle of the Sexes. But who won?
This is ITV News with Lucrezia Millarini.
Good evening. Donald Trump says a lot of progress has been made in ending the war in Ukraine, but there are still one or two thorny issues. The US president was speaking at a press conference after meeting with Ukraine's President Zelensky in Florida. Before talks even began, Mr. Trump said he'd spoken with President Putin and that there were the makings of a deal, but there was no detail given over territory or the future security of Ukraine. It comes as Russian forces continue to bombard the country. Here's Graham Stothard with the latest.
It was outside the golden detailed doors of President Trump's own golf resort, where he welcomed his Ukrainian counterpart. President Zelensky flew halfway across the world to where Trump has been holidaying for this handshake. But this didn't look or sound like a meeting of equals, with a more powerful partner doing most of the talking.
I think we're in final stages of talking, and we're going to see. Otherwise, it's going to go on for a long time. It'll either end, or it's going to go on for a long time, and millions of additional people are going to be killed.
It's around this table they started talking in earnest, there to discuss a 20-point peace plan spearheaded by the Ukrainians and the Europeans. To that, the press weren't privy. A few hours later, though, podiums were set up and the two leaders claimed progress.
We have great achievements, 20-point peace plan, 90% agreed.
But with no details on when a plan would be finalised.
What are we talking about? So if it went really well, maybe a few weeks, and if it went poorly longer, and if it went really poorly, it's not going to happen.
Before the meeting, it was the Russian leader who had Trump's ear. They shared a phone call which apparently lasted more than 2 hours. During the meeting at Mar-a-Lago, a number of European leaders called in remotely. Trump was clear what would happen if they couldn't make a deal.
But if things don't happen, they keep fighting, and they keep dying. And we don't want that to happen. Great.
At the end of the press conference, he appeared more concerned with how people found the food.
I don't know. Was it a good lunch? Yes, sir. There's no lunch. He walked in, he said, "This place is gorgeous." I don't think he wants to go to the White House anymore. That's the problem.
I'm ready to go to the White House.
I know.
This was a meeting that, despite the smiles, left no clear path to peace.
I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Graham Stothard, ITV News.
France's President Macron has described Brigitte Bardot as a legend of the century. The former actor turned animal rights campaigner has died at the age of 91. She was an icon of French cinema, but not without controversy, as our arts editor Nina Lennart explains.
Here is the drama of the life and loves of a young girl of today.
And so Brigitte Bardot announced her arrival. And God-Created Woman was her breakthrough film, introducing her as a symbol of the sexual revolution of the 50s and 60s. Her image of a free-spirited, so-called sex kitten would make her world famous.
You've been called the world sex symbol. Is this the way you want to be known? Is this what you hope the future will bring to you as an actress, or would you like to do something else?
I want to be myself.
And what is yourself?
Look.
Bardot's sultry image, with her signature heavy black eyeliner and her voluminous tousled hair, helped make her a style icon, her look still copied today. It was all a far cry from her childhood dreams of being a ballet dancer and her strict Catholic upbringing.
Brigitte Bardot, the young French star, is also quite easy on the eye.
Her stardom would bring constant press interest. Married 4 times, she and her second husband, Jacques Chadier, had a son, Nicolas, from whom she became estranged, only returning to good terms later in her life.
It is said that you are not a happy person.
I am not a happy person.
There were early signs that she was struggling with fame. In 1960, she left hospital after attempting suicide. Her bouts of depression would lead to other attempts to end her life.
You've been gone an hour.
And then, still a screen idol, she gave it all up, aged 39, and after more than 40 films, to spend her life promoting animal welfare. She set up the Brigitte Bardot Foundation, auctioning off personal belongings to fund its work. But her outspokenness and her ties to France's far-right National Front would bring her into conflict with some groups. Her criticism of immigration and Islam's influence on French culture would result in a number of convictions for inciting racial hatred. Hers is a complex legacy, yet there is no denying Brigitte Bardot's cultural impact. Her very name synonymous with a new wave of cinema and women on screen. She has a special place in the history of film.
Brigitte Bardot, who's died at the age of 91. Well, here a child has died after a house fire in Kent. A second child was taken to hospital after the fire in the village of Ham Street in Ashford. Kent Fire and Rescue arrived just after midday. They said the intense fire had spread throughout the semi-detached property. Next tonight, the government has condemned historic social media posts from an activist whose release Sir Keir Starmer and other ministers had welcomed as a top priority just 2 days ago. Alaa Abd El Fattah was unfairly imprisoned and detained in Egypt for years, with successive governments campaigning for his freedom. Now, hateful posts he made 15 years ago have led to calls from the Conservatives for his citizenship to be revoked. Well, Jasmine Cameron-Chilishi is here. And Jasmine, talk us through the background to this.
So as you say, Mr Al-Fattah is a dual British national who had been imprisoned in Egypt. And on social media on Friday, Sir Keir Starmer said he was delighted Mr Al-Fattah had been reunited with his loved ones in the UK. But the PM's welcoming of this individual has been criticised after social media posts have been uncovered where the activist appeared to call for violence towards Zionists and the police. Now, Number 10 say they weren't aware of Mr Al-Fattah's views shared online and do not endorse them. But all of this has really sparked a big political row, with the Conservatives now calling for this individual to be deported and have his citizenship removed, and some Tories who previously lobbied for his release have withdrawn their support. Now, Labour sources point to the fact that he was granted British citizenship in December 2021 under the Conservatives, and they say successive Tory Prime Ministers have called for his release from Egypt. And now Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has written to the Home Secretary, again calling for this individual to be deported, but also saying both Labour and the Conservatives are to blame. So I don't think this row and questions over what successive governments knew about this individual and when are going away.
Is likely to rumble on. Jasmine, thank you very much. Right, finally, in the battle of the sexes on a Dubai tennis court, it was not to be for the women's number one, Aryna Sabalenka. She was beaten by the Australian Nick Kyrgios in straight sets. But as Chris Scudder explains, it brought back memories of that original battle of the sexes over 50 years ago.
Getting their own competition. We haven't got our own competition.
Back in 1973, it was all about the fight for equality for women's sport. Billie Jean King, still in her prime, taking on and beating Bobby Riggs, outspoken chauvinist who thought he could beat her at the age of 55. The Battle of the Sexes even made a movie decades later.
I love women in the bedroom and in the kitchen, but these days they want to be everywhere.
Billie Jean and her big screen character proved her point. One love to women's equal rights. More than half a century on, cue a modern take on the battle of the genders. But this was more a PR stunt aimed at exposing tennis to a wider, younger audience. Nick Kyrgios, whose controversies off-court often eclipsed his exploits on it, had to play on a specially adapted court to balance up the physical differences between the sexes. Even though he's barely played for the past few years, Kyrgios came out on top in straight sets. But still, financially, the women's game has come a long way since Billie Jean first fought its corner. Chris Scudder, ITV News.
And before we go, two of last season's promoted clubs maintained their form in the Premier League. Sunderland and Leeds shared the taking them a point further away from the relegation places, while Sunderland stay 7th. And that is it for now. Bye-bye.